Hey there, I'm Taylor Hawkins from the Coattail Riders and other various projects. You're with Crash on the Fox.
Redrickton's Best Rock, 105 points for the Fox. It's a song called Way Down from Taylor Hawkins and the Coattail Riders. Former Pick It or Kick It champion, actually, and we'll find out how the Pick It or Kick It will go for today's selection in a bit. But right now I want to have a chat with Taylor Hawkins. Got him on the phone. He's best known as the drummer for the Foo Fighters, but he's about ready to release his second album with the Coattail Riders called Red Light Fever on April 20th. And much like Foo Fighters frontman Dave Grohl, you've kind of made a transition from the drums to being kind of the band leader. How did you decide to do that? What brought that on?
I like writing songs, and so it's really more of, I'm not really the leader of this band necessarily. It just happens to be my name at the front,
right.
and I just had to do it. I just like writing songs. I like writing songs. I like singing. I like doing it. So I don't know how much success I'm going to have, but that's not really the point. The point is really just to get out and stretch my wings and do something, different than I normally do, which is just play drums in the Foo Fighters, and I like writing songs too.
Yeah.
So.
Did you, you're obviously doing something a little different than what Dave did, going from drums. He went right to guitar and singing. You're still playing the drums and singing. Do you find that a little, is that tougher to do both at the same time?
It's a challenge. There's no question, and it requires a lot of rehearsal and a lot of stamina, and I have to be really in shape to do it and everything. But it is a challenge, but it's a challenge I enjoy a lot. I really do.
Yeah, well, you seem like a guy that just loves music in general, though. I kind of get that.
Absolutely.
And obviously with the album, I haven't heard the new album yet. I've only heard Way Down, which I really enjoy. But I get a definite Queen vibe from that, and I know you're a big Queen fan. So.
Well, actually, funnily enough, Brian May sings background vocals on it and plays some guitar on it too.
See,
so
I knew he'd kind of helped you out with the album. Didn't realize it was that song, but I guess obviously the influence rubbed off there then.
Yeah. I mean, that song started off as kind of just a joke, because the melody is kind of almost lifted from like the old Coca-Cola commercial,
Right, yeah.
And it's sort of a nursery rhyme sounding song, and, it's got the bouncy sort of glammy, early 70s glam stomp beat to it, and it just kind of grew out of something that I was just kind of goofing around with, and turned into this kind of, one of the better sort of pop songs on the record,
It's funny how that'll happen a lot of times. You hear a lot of bands saying that we just started as a joke, and it takes off.
And that happened a lot on this record. There's a couple songs that started out as really just kind of me making fun of something or making fun of myself,
Yeah.
So and turned into a song that actually turned into something I felt was good.
Yeah, well, I read it as kind of like at some point it was kind of like you having sex with your record collection. That you had said.
I kind of just, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, I realized halfway through that this is almost sort of like a love letter to my youth and the music that I loved growing up, and sort of almost like it's like a ride in the back of my mom's car on the way to soccer practice, It's all the music that was on the radio when I was a kid, sort of thrown into an album,
Yeah. Oh man, I totally get that. I have the same. You get the same memories, right? When you're in the car and you listen to all this old stuff, and it's and that's kind of what the album became in a way. It's like a ride in the back of my parents' car for 45 minutes with them playing the radio. Was that kind of a different approach to this record as opposed to the first one?
Yeah, the first record's a little bit more raw and a little less, vocally sort of influenced and a little less produced, and was almost more of a garage prog, if you will.
Right.
It was like, I called it garage prog. Kind of tricky rhythmically, but like with a sort of garage feel to it, almost like the Knack meets Rush or something,
Well, it was kind of it was a home recording in itself, wasn't it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, at what point did this one just become a studio thing? Was it right from the get-go, or were you trying to?
No, I planned on making it in a studio. I wanted it to sound and be completely different from the first record. So that was absolutely the deal from the get-go was I was going to make a record that was more produced, more vocally driven.
Show a little more diversity, kind of.
A little bit more diversity.
Yeah. Which I guess kind of happens when you're a fan of the different kinds of, because you've got a chance to play with like everybody. I mean, you've played with Queen, you've played with some of the guys from Zeppelin, Rush, obviously, who you mentioned being a fan of.
Absolutely.
That's got to be cool for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, sorry, I'm standing outside of my house.
That's okay.
My kids are inside going crazy. Yeah, I got my own little rock and roll fantasy camp going over here, you know?
Mm.
And I just basically, you know, ask these people who I call friends, who are actually sort of comic book characters from my childhood on my record. And I've gotten to play with, and it's amazing. It really is. It's like a dream come true.
Yeah, is that how you get hooked up with Slash, too? Because you helped him out on his new one.
No, not necessarily. I mean, not with all due. I love, you know, I think Slash is great, and you know, but you know, when Guns N' Roses were big when I was in high school, there was like kind of two camps, and there was the Guns N' Roses camp, and then there was like the more weirder Jane's Addiction camp, and I kind of belonged more to the other side, the Jane's Addiction camp, you know. Mm-hmm. But I mean, in retrospect, I look back at Guns N' Roses. I think they were a great rock and roll band, and I think Slash is a great guitar player, and he's sort of like this iconic figure, and you know, you see Slash and you know it's Slash. And
yeah. Well, we're gonna actually, I'm gonna play that song for you, the one that you did the background vocals for. It's Ozzy on lead for Slash on his new one. It's called Crucify the Dead. I'll chat more with Taylor Hawkins next. Redlerton's Best Rock, 105 points for the Fox. That's Slash with Ozzy Osbourne, Crucify the Dead from Slash's new album. And I've been chatting with Taylor Hawkins, the drummer of the Foo Fighters, singer of Taylor Hawkins and the Coattail Riders, who actually did some backup vocals on that song for Slash. And we were talking just before the song about how you got to play with a bunch of heroes. Slash, not necessarily someone you were a big fan of, although you do appreciate his music. How did you end up getting hooked up with Slash to be on his record then?
No, that really came about because of my friendship with the guy who produced that record, Eric Valentine.
Okay.
He's a great producer. And he had done a little bit of work with the Foo Fighters, and in that work I had done some background vocals, and he liked sort of my background vocal style, I guess, or whatever, and said, hey, would you come in and do some background vocals for this Slash record on a song? And I said, yeah, sure.
Yeah, why not?
And it was just literally like 2 hours in the studio with just Eric. Slash wasn't there, Ozzy wasn't there, and, you know, Fergie wasn't there. Nobody was there. It was just me and
man, Fergie surprised me, actually, listening to that stuff, you know.
I haven't really heard the record. I got to be honest. I heard the song that I did and maybe a few other things, but I haven't really heard the record. Is it great?
Yeah, it's actually, it is really good. Yeah, it's exactly what you'd expect from Slash, I guess, with just different vocalists, right?
Sure,
yeah, well, that's cool. I'm really looking forward to your new album, Taylor Hawkins and the Coattail Riders. Is it Red Light Fever, right? Out April 20th?
Yep.
You're
420, baby. 420.
Yes, did you plan that?
No, I swear to God I didn't. I'm not a pothead. I'm not, and I did not plan that, but it's just funny that it is 420.
No, I know. I actually had a question that one of our listeners wanted to ask you, which kind of goes back to what we were talking about, playing with, you know, your heroes and stuff. Is there anybody that you haven't played with yet that you would love to hook up with?
Oh, wow. Oh, man. I'd love to do like a whole background vocal session with Barry Gibb.
Yeah?
I would. I'm sorry. I know a lot of rock fans are going to be like, you jerk, what are you talking about?
No,
great rock and rollers out there. Why are you talking about Barry Gibb? But like, I love the Bee Gees, you know. I love the vocals. I love that stuff, you know, and it kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier with the stuff that I listened to in the back of my mom's car and on soccer practice. It's the same thing.
You got a soft spot for it, yeah.
Vocal sessions with Barry Gibb and stack vocals with him, you know.
Would you get Justin Timberlake and Jimmy Fallon in on that one as well?
Exactly, yeah, I remember that, yeah. That's funny.
Right on, man. One more thing. I know, you know, you got the new album coming out, but there's word of new Foo Fighters stuff. What's going on with Foo Fighters right now?
Well, we're just in the initial beginning sort of fetal stages of sort of just demoing and getting our ideas together and kind of logging our ideas and kind of, you know, what Dave's played me so far and what we've demoed so far is looking really good. I think we're going to have a really strong rock and roll record.
Yeah.
And then hopefully going to keep it good and raw and make it a real rock and roll record.
Right on. No, I'm looking forward to that. Foo Fighters, I'll profess, with my favorite band. So it's.
Oh wow, there you go, man. Well then I better make it. We better make it good for you.
Absolutely. I've liked everything else so far, so I'm sure I'll enjoy it as everybody else will.
Great.
Thanks to Taylor Hawkins. It was a pleasure.